Hello and welcome to the number one indie game podcast that is begrudgingly a No, wait a minute. No, this is a talk show that I begrudgingly turned into a podcast because people can't show up for my weird specific niche thing that I do at 7 o'clock my time, and I assume the rest of the world revolves around my particular time zone. So it is also a podcast, but I like to think of it as a radio show because I play music during the middle, and really, if you're not listening to the music, then I think you're missing out on like 90% of the show, or 70% of the show, or some amount of the show. But that's all beside the point because it's not just me here. Who am I? Oh yeah, by the way, my name's Andrew. I'm the creator and editor of Indiepocalypse. Indiepocalypse is like, if you don't know it, it's like a zine, or no, it's not a zine. It's a zine, but I call it a zine because it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? I call it a bundle, but it's not a bundle. Let's be real. It's like an anthology, but for games that comes out every month. And I'm joined here by my first guest, who is in one of those zines. You may know him from issue 6 with Vagrant.exe, and it's the first time I did an intro, and I think it's a good way to intro people. And now I'm going to say, hey, Anthony Smith, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a really good intro, first
Well,
off.
thank you.
Secondly, it is definitely an indie anthology, so I back everything you said.
Yes, I'm always like looking for the right word to describe it. I call it a bundle zine right now because it's like I think anthology sometimes like invokes too much theming, and
Sure.
it's not really themed because I was going to theme it at first and then I didn't because
It's
it
hard to
was
do.
it was very hard to get entries. So to say that no, your game also has to be about this thing is
Right.
even harder.
Yeah,
But
no, I think everybody has a niche that they want to go for, but I think game is a good niche, and
yeah,
just go full apocalypse with whatever designs come up from that.
right. It being a game that a good indie game is good enough for me at the moment. Eventually, maybe there will be special themed issues, but those don't exist right now. So, but hey, you were in issue 6, and usually I would ask someone how they found out about Indiepocalypse, but I think I emailed you directly about
You
Indiepocalypse.
sure did.
So
Yeah.
I gotta ask you, why did you enter my email? Because that's another thing that a lot of people don't do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if someone's going out of their way, to say, hey, I played your demo and I'd like you to be included in something, jump on it. I mean, it humbled me for sure. I'm like, oh, all right, so I guess I know
We don't use that word around here.
I had to go for it. I was like, oh, yeah, if you reached out, yeah, I'm going to answer these emails as soon as I possibly can.
Oh, perfect.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, that was basically the motivation right there.
that's good motivation. And listen, as someone who plays a lot, there's a lot. I've been playing it. I've realized that I do not like there's a genre that I'm calling the slender genre that I'm realizing that I don't like very much, and I don't think it's very good either. At the same token,
Does the jump scares kind of thing?
yeah, or it's like I'm gonna wander around and collect things, but it's like there's this arbitrary force that's coming for you, and eventually it's going to catch you, and there's like no way to stop it. So I guess what I'm saying, your game sort of trades mildly, but it's more of a stealth game anyway,
Yeah, exactly.
and it's got more.
I had to pitch it as a interactive environment when I was performing it in school, so it didn't necessarily become uh, what I would feel to be a horror environment until I added sound.
Yeah,
It's like, oh yeah, this is pretty creepy. So yeah, that was basically the motivation. Get in, get out.
exactly, and it's the same with the motivation for the name.
Yes, exactly. It was it kind of found me in the process because the way I pitched it, it was just a first person Pac-Man
Yes.
for the most part. Um, and yeah, I decided to just make the uh, the little guy an angry guy. So how can I visually tell you to stay away from this thing,
Yeah.
and not give it a hug? Uh, but yeah,
Well, it helps
really,
that the majority of games are not about giving hugs and staying away from things.
yeah. I mean, Slender does, right? It gives you a hug. You just can't turn around at the wrong time. I haven't played them,
No, I listen. Anthony, what is your familiarity with Slender Man?
but watching Justin Wong get scared by his roommate touching his shoulders while he was playing it, which is
All right,
amazing. So,
all right. I mean, it's a weird concept when I think about it. Now that I'm forced to think about it for more than 30 seconds, and how like I remember the original like weird that like something awful like edits that it came from way
mhm.
back in the day when I think it still had like a face.
Yeah. I think of G-Man, but like with no facial features.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and really tall, probably.
And it's like a weird. It's weird that's become. I'm not sure what it is. Is it like a myth now? Or is it like a
Some
legit?
urban legend.
Right. Is it like a legit cryptid? Like what is? Is it just like something that people can use for marketing, and that nobody actually owns because it was some edit on something awful forever ago?
Probably, yeah, yeah. I know that um, when I was looking to make things, I didn't want to do um, anything similar to like, what is it, Five Nights at Freddy's or whatever. I
Yes.
think it's good for its concept. But I like I wanted to go more Allison's Road, where you're anything that's scary that happens, you kind of do it to yourself.
Right.
You shouldn't peek around the corner if you knew you heard something. I know you're curious, but then now you get that awful feeling that something was staring back at you before you turn the corner, and that
Yeah.
frightens me to the highest degree. I'm like 9 years old again when I get scared like that.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that like the reason that people were scared about things like if Slender Man is slightly related. That's like the idea behind Blair Witch and that kind of thing.
Right.
Is that
That
you're scaring
ominous.
yourself more than anything else.
Yeah, yeah. You perpetuate your own fear. You
Right.
can be brave, but bravery and stupidity is kind of like walking that tightrope.
Right.
There's been
It's
plenty of times where I'm like, I'm just gonna bolt from one end of the hall to the other, and it was a terrible idea.
yeah. It's instead it's our own instincts for survival that scare us the most because
Yeah,
it's like oh well I don't unknown should inherently be scary. Also darkness because we can't see in the dark.
right. Uh, Getting the Silent Hill PT kind of vibe there, where you're just the light is on now, and I don't want to go near it, and messing with the psychology of the player and trying to influence them to do things that they wouldn't often do, or invoke something differently in them. Um, and I don't know, all these motivations are playing into it on trying to not only have the game design teach them what to do, but help them learn about themselves. Uh, but the downside to this is if you're making games like this, you should play more games like this. So you
Right.
have to have the courage to go through it. Um, and if anyone hasn't heard of it or wants to, Cry of Fear is by far my favorite small developer, indie developer horror game. It
That's
is
the
free.
that's no never
Hmm?
mind. I was thinking that's the Half-Life mod, but it isn't.
It is. That is
Oh,
the
it
Half-Life
is.
1 mod. Yep.
Okay. Oh,
That
you know
game.
what? I was thinking you were talking about Layers of Fear, and that I was confusing them. But it turned out I was right.
Layers of Fear is also very good too, but I like combat. That's
Yeah.
the thing that I was missing in even my demo. I didn't have the time to, but something I am currently looking to innovate upon. But yeah, Cry of Fear is just, I think, the perfect, like PlayStation
Yeah.
2 kind of horror where your
Right.
imagination starts filling in the gaps. It's fun.
I've only ever seen the multiplayer version of Cry of Fear, so I have no context for what the single player is like.
That's a, that's a mess. It's a
Yeah.
good mess because it takes all the enemies and scrambles them everywhere.
Yeah, it
It's a
seems
lot
like
of
a
fun.
very different like linear. It does not seem like a linear horror experience. It seems like a weird, janky Left 4 Dead or something.
Right. Yeah. It's I definitely uh, want to push that just because it's free. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
But that's yeah, it's a driving that kind of design is my favorite thing to have the person behind the controller or the keyboard develop as an individual. as
So,
they
I
do
guess
other stuff.
similar to that line of thought, I have my first question here. I'm going to sprinkle these questions throughout because we've got a lot this week.
Sure.
And this is from Bethany, and it is, what challenges you most when creating a video game, and how do you typically approach it? Presumably, that challenge.
Hmm. Uh, Depending on, like for example, when you're trying to set up a character controller or camera to feel the right size going through doorways seems really like niche, and it might even sound like something that's you could just no brainer. It's built into the concept.
Yeah.
You really got to sit around and like uh, I think I had like 9 different versions of the same doorway with slightly different to scale parameters to see which one felt realistic. Um, just constant iterations and never settling for less, or even getting the level design completely done and then being like, I should change these doors again.
Right.
uh,
I think
just never shying away from it.
I saw someone on Twitter talking about, like, they were going through their game and they're like, "This my character sprite looks weird because it's tall, but like proportionally speaking, like the way it's tall is not the same as like the proportions were different than the rest of the character models."
The ratios go off, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like technically, if you look at this person, they look like a tall person, but everyone else is like these shorter, fatter, kind of like JRPG like proportioned characters. So now the character doesn't look tall anymore, and
Yeah,
like yeah,
they get like this weird skewed look to them. Yeah,
y-
you might not be able to put into words why it looks the way that it does, but visually your brain's like, I don't like it.
right. So you're like, there's way too much headspace in this doorway,
Yeah, my
and like
character's not this big,
right, or my
or this
character's not this
small.
small, or like, or if it doesn't feel like you walked through a door before, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, I think I spent 2 weeks just trying to design 2 sets of stairs so that it ran properly to the architecture of the building. And it never made it into the demo. It's in the next build, but it's just maddening how very simple structural designs can look weird in a game engine once you
Yeah,
get your character controller walking around. Um, gives you a whole different understanding of how to deal with design flaws or to innovate upon them as they arise. But
yeah. So
it's great to kill them, to knock them out, you know.
yeah, I've done that thing like driving down a familiar road before. I've just like looked at it a different way, and it's like, oh wait, where am I?
You turn
Like,
yourself around.
right, you just need to like kind of like really put yourself in the moment sometimes when designing, and realize like, what does a stairwell actually look like?
Yeah, tons of reference, and I had like, different um, schematics and stuff to try and figure out, if it's 13 feet in an office space, then
Yeah,
it's roughly, have like 6 feet to play with between stairwells or something like that. It was really wonky. I had to constantly reshape stuff. It was super fun though.
yeah, and like
Um,
and
Learned a
and
lot.
do you and especially like speed is weird in video games. That's why the Doom guy runs like 50 miles an hour.
That's true. Yeah,
But it doesn't feel weird because it's a video game. It's like, oh,
yeah,
we don't realize that they're just like trucking so fast.
yeah. You don't want to feel like a snail going through these spaces.
Yeah,
Um, I
like
think another thing that was super helpful was to make the game manager just an open cheat sheet for yourself, because you might reload the scene after changing something, and then you don't want to walk at the usual pace to
yeah,
that location, so you just give yourself a little cheat code and move triple the amount of speed to test it out immediately, because you don't realize how much time you end up burning walking the same route over and over again, or
right.
little things like that. Use your cheat sheet. You're the designer. Do what you want.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of design, this is from West Coco. How did you find your niche in game art slash design?
Uh, that's that's a good one. I don't know really.
Yeah, I guess, have you found your niche yet?
I feel like it all stems from childhood, like most people. but it's more like trauma. When I played Resident Evil Silent Hill for the first time, it broke me. Um, I didn't know nightmares until I played those games.
Yeah.
So I just, uh, instead of running from it, I guess I steered into the path and wanted to get into the minds of what makes a good horror game or a good experience, as novel as it is. And that can, every game that we like is novel in one way, shape, or form.
Right.
Whether it's Street Fighter or maybe you like SNK games, maybe you like Arc System, Guilty Gear. But
Right, and all those games are like different in their own unique ways. They all move in their own different ways.
right, they have a true identity to themselves. So I think that's what it is. It's anything that happens to have a an honest representation and maybe even took risks that um, wouldn't be seen as something that people would have thought to be fun. Like Death Stranding, you literally are a post office man walking everywhere, and I loved it. Um,
Yeah, because
or
it's like
even
hard committing to whatever your design is. It's like hard committing to it.
right, exactly, and making that innovative. So yeah, I think being inspired by people going off the path to make something that was unique definitely kept me hungry to try and find something like that. Um, and programming for it is definitely the hurdle, but I love it.
Yeah,
It's fun.
yeah, yes. I have found in my own experience, having a clever idea is all well and good, but then you're like, well, how do I make the computer do what I want it to do? That's
Can I
the
speak
hard
into the
part.
microphone and tell it to do it?
Yeah, so like, no, no, no. It's like these games that were already made. Just make them like those. Oh, do I
Yeah.
have to make that? Do they have source code? Oh, even if they did, they're not in the engine I'm working in. So
Oh, it's proprietary.
I have to
Okay.
figure out how to do this. Well, fantastic.
Yeah. Like Medium is going to be doing two scenes at the same time. I'm really interested to see how they're going to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to be fun because that's a whole new like just again just taking game design and breaking it. All right, let's do something completely different. So I yeah, stuff like that always keeps me hungry, and I'm glad to hear I'm not the only person who's like, this is great. How do I do
Speaking
it?
of Anthony, speaking of difficulties in design, Matt Matt here has to ask you, what one hurdle you didn't expect to run into with game design, and how did you overcome it? I guess if you did overcome it.
um, I guess just playtesting is really hard.
Yeah,
You get people who, um, of course, you want them to do different things so you know how to steer them in that space. But to making visual representations that aren't the same ones, like in, say, Doom 2016, like follow the green lights. There's red lights here, you can travel them, but follow the green lights. Like, that's a colorblind issue now. You
right.
can't do that. So, trying to find scenarios where you can keep the pace and keep them on track. And if they do get sidetracked, like a good kind of sidetracked, I think that right there is still a hurdle I haven't figured out yet.
Right.
That's a good question. That's a really tough one to steer. I think the attention of the audience the right direction when the time comes.
Yeah. And I will always, this because it's a personal sticking point of my own, I will say with playtesting, hey, don't always forget that when you're out there, when we're all we're all out of this COVID lockdown situation, you're out there having people play test your games. Sometimes just fine if people don't like your games, and I've learned the most important phrase is, it's not for everybody.
Right. 100%.
Because I think there's like an impulse early on to be like, oh, I have to listen to every piece of feedback, and take it all 100% to heart, and I have to appeal to everybody. But if you're talking about, like, especially
Sorry.
you're talking about, trying to like explore different spaces and taking innovation or taking inspiration from people who are themselves going well off the path and trying their own little niche, you're not going to make something that everybody's going to like.
Right, and I think that's probably my primary focus of trying to wed programming with level design to make the spatial language more visibly clear to not really everyone, but because
Yeah.
in any game, I'm like, all right, so the game creator wants me to go left, I'm gonna go right.
Right.
It's
No.
just instinctual, right? So I think playing into that and um, giving some sort of reward or gratification to that is probably the best carrot on the stick there. And chasing that concept of might do wonders for how people use the space. That might be the way to go.
Yeah. And I think I've got a big question here, big unanswerable question for you from an anonymous. Do you recommend going to college for game art?
If you want to do game art,
Oh, there you go.
I think. I mean, I did it kind of backwards. I did game art to figure out how to get everything in the engine, and then afterward, I was like, all right, time to do programming. It's the last piece to put together.
Right.
I mean, no matter what, it'll feel like a YouTube career. You
Yeah.
can go get your diploma and by watching other people doing what they do, but nothing beats the real individuals who are in Maya, Unity, ZBrush, who know the little tricks that they found in their workflow from maybe they had it in the industry before they became professors or instructors.
Yeah.
But it's definitely worthwhile if that's the direction you want to go.
Yeah. College is like, I think, a big and complicated idea that like you could for instance go to college for economics and then find yourself publishing an indie game zine, you know?
Yeah, who knows where it's going to take you.
Yeah.
It's definitely what you want from it.
Right.
And, protect your wallet because it's expensive.
Right.
But,
Or get in early. Maybe they'll cancel all your debt.
oh yeah, sure that.
Everyone get in now, quick. As someone who paid off all their college debt, I don't begrudge anyone getting their debt canceled. I would love to see everyone's debt just disappear tomorrow.
Yeah, we'd have all that weight lifted from our chest, and then we can just take in all the artistic and interactive experiences without any issues whatsoever.
Why do you think I'm able to make this zine in the first place? I paid off all my debt.
Hype, man, that's awesome.
I spent years and years and years just working nonstop and not buying very much stuff and just paying off debt.
It's like an ice pick to the brick. I'm glad you got through it, man.
Yeah. I was talking about this with Julian, another guest, that maybe the greatest factor to becoming successful or to succeeding in any artistic venture is just not having debt.
It's a good start.
Yeah. Yeah, not having to just even if you still have to work like a nonstop 40-hour soulless job, at least you don't have to put all your money in it, you know?
That's actually why Vagrant takes place in a call center. That was the job I had before I started going to school. It's 1-to-1 the exact floor plans of that.
Oh wow, center. Yeah, I'd never done call center work, but
yeah, it wasn't so bad. I had a lot of nice people. It's just
yeah.
It's like dinnerware and stuff. So
right, and
you get somebody who broke a plate, and then they're like, I don't want to pay for it. You're like, well, you broke it, so
yeah,
that's my.
And job. It's like, but yeah, I mean, everyone's in the grind there with you. It's like, we don't need to go on this wild tangent about the problem of besides not getting paid very much money, and the problem of a lot of this very low level service industry work is just the people who take it too damn serious.
Yeah, for sure.
They make your job a lot harder than it needs to be.
You're like, it would be great if you could just let your hair down and be nice.
Yeah, could you just chill? We're working in a call center. You don't need to be so on 24/7.
Yeah.
The bosses aren't going to give you a big old raise.
There's no raise for taking 70 calls in a day.
Right. There's no raise for being shitty to other people.
Yeah. In the meantime, I'm just writing down notes. I'm like, oh, this would be a great idea if the next call comes in.
Right. Exactly.
The creative juices flowing.
Right. Hey, just get a cloud-based design or cloud-based note-taking app and just do notes anywhere. I was writing code in Evernote.
Oh, Evernote. Yeah,
and hoping it worked when I got back home.
So that's hype. I like to see, that's something I never even thought of. I legitimately, dude, have a notepad
Oh
And
yeah.
I was writing stuff down and trying to write things in a way so that I could recall them, maybe
Right.
5, 6 months from now, because I'll be like, what the hell was I talking about?
No, I was very much like, well, if this job's going to give me a computer with an internet browser, I'm just going to go to Evernote and just type in a bunch of code and hope it works when I get home.
That is next level.
Sometimes it did.
Yeah,
Speaking of
you got
next
stuff
level,
cracking. Nice.
we've got next question
Word.
from West Coco again.
Hi.
Repeat question asker. Do you have a game that made you stop and say, "That's it, I want to get into the video game industry"? If so, what about that game really spoke to you?
Hmm. It's definitely Silent Hill.
Okay.
All roads lead back to Silent Hill. Um, it's just the little things that are peppered in that don't mean much, but still impact you, the player. Have you played
No,
Silent Hill?
I was actually going to say that Silent Hill is like a blind spot of mine that I've been meaning to get
Mm,
to. I have a lot of
so,
like, it's harder to fill in the blind spots of games because they take so long to play.
right. And some of them are too dated or old, so it doesn't have the same like landing effect. But
Right.
if you take like so Silent Hill 1 it's just a team of rejects really. Team Silent was a bunch of people who knew enough that they wanted to get this visual across, and they didn't have the greatest budget, and the engine wasn't the best thing, and the way they fixed it was by adding fog to break the LOD so they didn't have to render everything at once, solve the problem. So when they made the second game, they decided to double down, unlike every other game that has a sequel. And one of the things that they doubled down on was like making the characters' flaws as apparent as possible through their personality, of course, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like much, but at the time you didn't really see much of that in video games. And one of them is the main character, James. He has a note from his wife, and if you read it too much, I think it's like 5 times in the duration of the gameplay, by the time you get to the end of the game, the note goes blank. And it's up to you to notice those kinds of things. Or, like, if you hear her voice in a hallway and you don't stay for the duration of her speech, which is still the note, you change the ending in those situations. Really tiny, like microscopic changes to you as the player,
Yeah.
and it just really opens up. Like your effect on this world means something,
Right.
and I
And
love it.
it's not the same as your effect means like, did I choose the red color or the blue color, you know?
Yeah, it's more dynamic. Yeah. Um, so I mean, I implore anybody to try them. It's not the greatest game. Like it's awful combat. The puzzles are
Yeah.
but the environment is great.
Yeah, I never enjoyed like I never played any of those games back in the day because I was never interested in like those kind of like tank controlling style games.
Yeah, for sure.
I've
And it's
since
super stiff.
yeah, I've since like oh, what if you just what if you could just make them I so I got like an HDMI switcher and a whole thing so I could just route my computer over to my TV so I can
Mhm.
start playing and I have like RetroArch all set up
Oh,
and
nice.
I was trying to like mess with the controls. So like, well, can I screw with these first-person shooters so that I can make like GoldenEye into a twin stick shooter that plays like a modern first-person shooter?
Did
I
you?
I couldn't. It was very
I
hard.
was gonna say, yeah. I think one of my buddies was talking about that too. Like, you go back to play something like GoldenEye, you're like, how did we do this? This
Yeah,
is so hard to aim.
yeah. I had that. I played a lot of. I never played GoldenEye. I played a lot of Perfect Dark, which
Exactly. Perfect Dark was godlike. And
yeah,
like, if I go
it's
back now, I'm like, I'm terrible.
yeah. I One of the things that I think a lot about like the game design elements is like the counter operative mode in Perfect Dark
Mhm.
and how it's like fascinating and nothing else exists like it really since that I know of.
Since, yeah, rare software was rare.
Yeah, and it's like that changed how we played that entire game.
It
And it
was,
was
those are the days, man. That's like, that's what I'm
yeah.
talking about. That's like the epitome of like, we're just gonna try it.
Right,
We don't
and then
know if it's gonna take, but we're gonna design the hell out of it and just pitch it.
right, because like we wouldn't like we barely knew like what the end level missions were, but we were so intimately familiar with like those first few levels because like we knew where to hide and like okay, so if people don't know, counter operative mode in GoldenEye or not Golden, Perfect Dark
Perfect. Okay.
is it is the story missions except instead of except one player plays through it normally and the second player spawns as the enemies in the story mission maps, and then it's like a competitive mode basically.
And it's
And
like a head pet. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's this head-to-head thing, and every time that player dies they respawn as another enemy in the map, or if all the enemies in the map are dead they just respawn in just some fixed location.
It gets close to like Unreal Tournament when you get to that far. That far.
Yeah, yeah. And it was so you at least I did it. We developed like this meta game of like, well, you need to find places to hide because if you're good enough, you can just like kill the player fairly quickly if you like sneak up on them. Which is also why we didn't play the later missions because it was way too hard for the competitive player because it was like what's the hardest mode times a million because you're just playing against another player.
Yeah, that and you can get stacked by that point.
Yeah.
You get so much stuff. I missed that game, dude. That was definitely. I was hoping that they were gonna do a remake of it, but they can let the past be the past. It's fine.
Yeah. We're approaching the end of our time, so we are just going to go through our last few questions we have for you, Anthony.
Sure.
This is from Linny. Do you have any advice for people trying to find a job in the industry, like what should be in our portfolios or resumes, etc., etc.?
The advice that I've been given has definitely been the most valuable piece is basically just make sure that if you can take half of the things out of your portfolio, um, that what you have left is your best possible work, and either only stick to those or try to embellish it so that you can keep yourself relevant. Um, my biggest fear as I'm applying for work and stuff is whether or not what I'm showing in my portfolio is too old. So I'll apply for 3 or 4 months and then I'll go back to the grindstone and start adding things or coming up with new concepts. Make sure your website is as clean and concise, clear to what you as an individual are capable of.
Yeah.
I think those are the strongest talking points.
And I'll say that even right now, as from my perspective, hey, you should have an email available somewhere because let me tell you something. There were games that because I pick like 2 games per month by hand, unless I need to pick more per month by hand, like 6 where I had to pick them all because nobody submitted anything.
Oh wow.
I would say make sure you have an email because then people need to find a way to talk to you, even if it's like an email you barely never use.
Right. Because then you're like, oh, I had this backlog of people. I mean, that would be the worst if I had heard that somebody, applied for a position and then, or somebody reached out for a job position. I'm like, I would have hired you, but there's no email.
Right. Like I saw your portfolio and I saw your stuff. It was really cool, but your email didn't work. Or don't do those contact forms. It's fine to have one. Don't make it your only thing. I never want to use those things.
Yeah, give a backup option.
Yeah.
Wix and all that stuff. They can. It's a big deterrent. It's got to
Right.
be as easy and painless as possible.
Yeah, because like some people, at least myself, I like having like the email and like the sent email in my email like client.
Yeah.
Not just this form that's floating endlessly.
You must
Anyway,
have 2 different emails.
we got a question from Quart, which you've kind of already answered, but I will say it anyway. Anthony, I took a look at your Vagrant demo, and I gotta say it looks cool. Do you plan on developing the game further? What was your inspiration for this? I think we mentioned a lot of this. Yes, you're working on it.
And yes, it's a work in progress because I'm adding different floors. I'm still working on like bare bones mechanics for combat, but yeah, mostly Kojima, as mentioned in the chat. He's my favorite. Team Silent is another one of my favorite teams, and then just anybody who's doing things off the beaten path. can't think of the feller's name, but the developer Undertale is another one who's.
Oh, Toby Fox.
Yeah, he blows my mind with some of the things that he came up with. Yeah, you know, typical stuff. If it was cool to you, chances are I thought it was cool too.
Yeah. Well, perfect. And speaking of things that are cool to you, I like to ask every guest, what is something you would recommend to people out there that's not a game, no games allowed, but something else that people could get into?
Hannibal.
Hannibal?
Yeah.
Man, I love Hannibal. Man.
Yo.
Nobody told me when Hannibal was coming out that it was like a Brian Fuller show. It's one of those things that, like, why didn't anyone tell me this?
Brian Fuller is insane. And American Gods.
Yeah,
I mean,
I like.
sucks that it's canceled.
I watched it after the fact, and I was like, "Damn, this is like 100% my thing. Why did nobody tell me this kind of thing?"
Yeah. I 110% am on your side there. When I started it, and then it just, I could never let it go. The only other one, I mean, Westworld is great. One of my other buddies come into that. Yeah. Anything that, keeps you on edge.
Right.
Evangelion, stuff like that. Things that make you think. Those are my favorite. Existential crisis kinds of shows.
I had a very not similar experience to how I felt about Hannibal in terms of what a show it is, but in terms of like creators that I enjoy that people didn't tell me, was when I finally got around to watching Yuri on Ice. I'm like, oh, this is good. But nobody had told me that it was like a show that Sayo Yamamoto directed, and I really enjoyed like all of the other work she's done, like the Michiko and Hatchin and Woman Called Fujiko Mine. I think everyone should watch The Woman Called Fujiko Mine. I love that show. Is it
one of those like 13 episode rip feels out of you? Okay.
Well, it's like I don't know how to describe it. It's like she took like the character of Fujiko from Lupin, and she just like went full on like art and horny with it, and I love it. It's exceptional.
Fujiko was the OSG, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think Jingens is one of my favorite characters in anime history. So,
I think. Anyway, we're gonna put this anime discussion to a halt for a moment. We've got more time later if we need to talk about anime, but we need to go on break. We're gonna go on break, and thank you all for that. I will say that I forgot about breaks and say, hey, did you know I am an affiliate now, so everyone can just give me those Bezos bucks. Okay, I'm gonna go on break now. Goodbye. Hello, and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. I am here with our second guest, the show's second guest, my second guest, the second guest here, Rachael Brearton. Rachel, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm
enjoyed the first half of the show.
Thank you. I'm doing well. Because of that show, I am now fully fired and functionally in interview mode. Uh-oh. Nope, good. That was just, we're good. We're good. The stream manager busted. I'm like, oh no, is everything else going to break with it? But no, that was just nothing else. We're good. Never mind. Ignore me. Ignore this moment here. Hello. So you made... let me try this again. I knew what I did, and then I didn't do it. What I meant to do was, you may know our next guest from the video game review editorial website Indie Hive, Rachael Brearton. I did that again. I'm not going to edit that first part out, but I need to do it again to get in the practice of doing those proper introductions. Hello again.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
So, tell me a little bit about Indie Hive. But we're back. Hello. Okay, as you were saying.
What was I saying?
I don't remember. I was hoping you would remember.
I don't know, probably partly down to preconceptions about sort of men being more involved in STEM industries. So
yes, you're right.
Sort of the guy's obviously the developer. What roles are left? I guess maybe something along those lines. But yeah, I think it's just overlooked because when you think of game development and production, you think of the coding and the artwork and the music, and it's not something that's immediately thought of.
Right.
Because it's not a part of the game itself.
Yeah. But it's like as someone who is spending a lot of time, more time than I'm expecting, doing promotion and the like, it's a lot of work, and it's thankless work, and I feel like it fails a lot more than whenever I was doing programming or other art.
It's a tricky one to get right. So just like trying to get the tone of everything right and keep up with everything.
Yes.
People and not sound like a robot.
Right, exactly. Not sound like you are just regurgitating your talking points. I was looking at a show, like watching another show, and then because that I was going to be on, I think maybe tomorrow or something, and this is no shade on the person who was the guest on that show, but they were very much like, their tone was, this is my video game, here are my talking points. And I'm like, I'm tired, I don't want to watch this video. And it can be very difficult to talk about something for 10,000 times and not sound like you are just regurgitating the same points that you said the other 9,999, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's not something I've encountered, luckily, because I don't have that many people asking me to talk about stuff. But
right.
Yeah, I can understand how sort of keeping up the impression of sort of passion or
like, yes,
just the enthusiasm,
right, or just like
in a public environment is taxing.
Right. When you have to, it's almost like there's a reason that it's some people's entire jobs, not everyone has to do it.
Like if you can have the enthusiasm internally, or when you're sat at your desk, but translating that to a
right.
public sphere,
yes,
is a different ball game.
Especially when you don't know, like, and having to, talk to that person, like, what is their reaction, and I'm going to change how I'm talking based on how they are reacting to me, or are I just going to keep barreling through my talking points?
I mean, in text as well, not just
yes,
like trying to sound like a human being, and not
right.
just the Twitter robot.
My advice: don't use the eyes. I don't like the eyes. The eye emojis. They don't feel real. They never feel sincere to me.
I always thought they looked like really pasty boobs, but that might
yes.
be me being immature.
But yeah, do you have, Rachel, what's your least favorite emoji? Do you have one?
I don't know, my most used is probably the face palm, but at myself.
Yes. Okay.
No, I don't think I've got any I really hate.
Okay.
The old hug one was pretty.
I don't know offhand.
Not hug-like.
Is that like a circle with two hands around it?
Had two big hands at the front. It looked more like they were going for a grab than a hug. Whoever designed that, they tried.
Yeah. But eventually, as our computers get better and better every year, and our resolution gets higher, you can fit entire images down there. Entire big complicated hugs.
Make out what they actually are when they're that small.
Right. It's like there's hands and there's something and a thing and all right. I have the same problem with GIFs. I feel like somebody just like sometimes they just like type into the GIF search engine, I'm looking for social media engagement.gif, and they just get something that is just like, it feels very generic and flat to me, but I'm also a very particular weirdo who like makes all of his own GIFs. So I don't know if that's just a particular problem of my own.
Most of the search ones are quite, social media ones and Discord seem quite filtered. Like just get the same results over and over.
Yeah, so it often feels like, oh, I don't know. It feels very flat, like what you were talking about. It feels very robotic. And that there's not a person on the other end is kind of like the idea of social media engagement is on the other end of this Twitter account. And I guess I'll engage with it. Man, this is going wild on me. Hello, I'm here now. Nothing good. Discord didn't go anywhere. Or OBS didn't, just Discord.
Panic over.
Yeah.
I was going to carry on my own. Wasn't loving that idea.
No, we're good. We're good. I would never leave anyone on their own. I would conduct the interview from the chat. Presumably, I could still hear you, which I would not also be able to hear you. I guess I would have to turn on Twitch. I don't. There's something. I got to see what's been like resource hogging my computer because I didn't have this problem until like last episode. I wonder if like Chrome updated or something, and now it's more resource intensive. Maybe I'll just like use Firefox or something else when I'm streaming. Who knows? Anyway, let's browser all this browser compatibility stuff aside. Oh wow. Okay, so I use the session timer on Twitch to time everything. And now that has reset once or twice, I'm like, uh-oh, where are we? But it's it's almost 8:20 by my clock, of course. So I believe we're approaching the end of the second segment. Because we start at 7 and go to 7:30. Yeah, okay. So, Rachel, I've got to ask you the important question. What would you recommend to the gamers out there that is not a game?
Personally, I've just been spending loads of time recently doing online classes. A lot of painting stuff for me personally, but it's feels like it's a way to relax, but also feels like you're sort of learning something and being productive at the same time.
Yeah.
That's been really good for me. So I'd recommend that. Find something you enjoy and
Okay.
so be probably some sort of little RenPy project to start with.
Still programming.
Perfect. Thank you. Hello, I'm back.
Hi.
My Discord crashed again.
Oh no.
I'm closing all of these. I'm closing all of the perfunctory other tabs that I have. Usually I have a bunch of pinned tabs, but you know what? Close them. Don't need them anymore. Closing everything. Only the Stream Manager page up now and everything else. So while I sort out what is chunking up all of this computer space. But I'm glad you've continued on without me. You soldiered on through it. Why am I even here? You guys don't even need me. I just let this show right on. But anyway, we're going to go to our second break. Then we'll come back with everybody. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to go to
Thank you for inviting me.
The break now. And we'll be back in, about 3 minutes and 16 seconds. Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. This is the last segment. We're all here hanging out together Hey everyone.
Hello.
Hey.
So I've got a couple questions here. Some real fucking Johnny come latelys here with questions. Because of last week, I believe. I'm trying to remember. Listen, all these guests blur my mind. But anyway, so we have some questions here that from Pink Butter. Pink Butter asks, "What's Macio's Instagram? Do you guys know?"
I
What?
don't know anything about Instagram.
No, I
shit,
don't
dude.
use it.
Sorry, Pink Butter, can't help you there. This is from nobody. They did not leave a name. It says, "Can we see his Steam profile to see what games he plays?" You guys help out anonymous there?
Sure. I play a lot. Rachel, what do you play? You have a Steam account?
I do, yes. I've got a few hundred games in the library. 150 reviews, so...
Oh, let's play this game. How accessible is your Steam? Can we ask this question of what is your most played game?
Oh man, mine's definitely Warframe.
Okay, I'm going to trust you with that you won't need to look that up.
Definitely Warframe.
Witcher 3 is my most played game on Steam. 350 hours, but I've probably got the same amount of days played on WoW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
I wonder how long, what my WoW day count is as someone who is similarly. This is pre-show talk where we're talking about, hey, we played a lot of. Sometimes you just play an MMO because it's quiet and relaxing.
I definitely
I'm
have.
familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have like 400 days online on EverQuest 1 way back when.
Blimey.
Yeah,
It's old school.
I looked mine up, and if you exclude like Ace Sprite, which obviously I'm going to exclude Ace Sprite because that's not a game. It's just art making. And if you exclude that stuff, my top is Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, that community is thick. They stick to it.
Yeah, I didn't realize it's like still so widely, like
It is
hugely played.
alive. Yeah.
I stopped a long time ago, kind of like mid hats, like a little bit into when they were giving people all new weapons, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah. And I think my favorite right now is that they still get hype over like a random 2 to 10 megabyte patch that like I don't know changes text files or some shit. It's so funny to me. Yeah, that's a niche community right there.
Yeah, but also very large because I occasionally go to Steam charts
Or
if
devoted is probably the term I was looking
yeah,
for.
I go to Steam charts occasionally when I like want to do my like real. It's my version of doom scrolling is like looking up games on the Steam charts and going, wow, peak
People are
2
still playing.
players.
Yeah. Oh, Rachel, real quick. For Witcher, who were you team Yennefer or team Trish?
Yennefer.
Hell yeah. Okay. That's all I need to know.
I have played the first Witcher back when it was still a weird Eastern Europe game, and then the second one a little bit later, and then I haven't played the third one. I am very much like really, besides it being like a massively long game that also requires my attention. The plus side of MMOs is they don't necessarily require your full attention, so you can do them.
These games nowadays are more. I like to consider them more of a. It's an interactive book, right?
Right.
They're not going anywhere so long as the platform allows you to download them. That's the best part. And I probably do have something like 300 or so hours in Witcher on GOG. And it occasionally you're like, is any one quest, any one optional thing, you can really jump back into that environment. You kind of want to, even though it's so dismal and sad, but it's still really pretty. So that's the best part. It's not going anywhere. Once you get bit by it, you're gonna want to play it, and then you won't stop for 400 hours.
I've just have not found the time to get that like very long RPG. But aside from that, we have one more question here from Noctua Nympha, and this is from Maceo again. What inspired you to create Perfect Vermin? Spill the lore galore. Heh. So, what do you think? What do you think inspired Perfect Vermin? What do you think are some hidden lore about it? Are you from? Actually, Rachel, you did play Perfect Vermin. It was a recent pick, if you will.
Yeah, like I said, I couldn't.
You couldn't
getting
speak
for 15 blocks and getting caught. So.
So, what would you say inspired the lore of Perfect Vermin then? That was the game with the sledgehammer and the chairs. And the grotesque.
Yeah, my bad.
No,
Assumed you were talking about Anthony's game.
No.
Didn't even listen. That's Vagrant.
That's Vagrant, yes. I guess like not too dissimilar mouth sounds.
I assume the Perfect Vermin inspired by sort of personal experience, and there's a sort of big no smoking sort of theme to it going through. Got more and more obvious as you went through.
Well, perfect. I think that is as close as we can get without having the actual creator here still. I don't know why those people asked that question like a week after the fact, but I did my due diligence and I asked them and I said their names.
That does look pretty neat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Even though I knew what I was playing, I still got surprised when I smashed the first bit of furniture and blood came out. Like,
I regularly have people be like, "Wow, I'm glad you submitted your cool thing to this," and then you realize that like even people who have like, it shows the gulf between like I don't know, fandom and success, and like, it's I think it's more and more apparent that a lot of people having a lot of followers or fans does not also mean you are successful.
I think success probably means different things to different people.
Or like, I guess financially successful, or if you're still like slumming it and like, wow, I wish people would pay money for this thing so I didn't have to work this miserable job every day.
There's a couple of like really niche things, and then they move on to the next, like, I don't want to say similar, but I think any amount of just people, even if 5 people played my demo, I'd be pretty ecstatic by it. So, and it seems like that's happened. So I'm just cheating over here. So,
I feel like more than 5 people have definitely played. I would surely hope that more than 5 people have played it.
So yeah, I think it's definitely a different measure, I guess, for everybody. Yeah, but it's hopefully they're humbled by whatever it is that.
That's why I like to package them all together as like one single zip file. So I feel like by putting them all, by forcing people to download every game, I like to hope that it forces them to play every game. Or
they're already there. You might as well try it.
Yeah. It encourages people to play them all instead of just being like, well, I know these 3 games, or these 3 games look like they're my style of game. I'm just going to download those 3 only.
It's so easy to just go through the folder and like open one, play, open the next.
Yeah.
Convenient. It works.
Right. Sometimes they're very big and I don't unzip them all, but it takes 5 seconds to unzip something.
Yeah, it's not tough. There's actually one game I've always been wanting to play, and I should really get around to it, is the Untitled Goose Game.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
I am very much of the style of, if it's popular, I give it 5 years to see if it's still popular. And then I just, most of the time, mostly because there's so much other stuff, and I'm very behind on things, if you will.
For sure.
And like you said, things don't get bad if they get old.
I mean, if you like quite poignant narrative experiences, Welcome to Elk was probably my favourite game last year. It's only a few hours long, but it's based on sort of real life stories, and it's all told through the gameplay and the little sort of mini games and stuff.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I
Just
have
made a weird impression. So.
yeah, I have no real there's nothing I won't play. There's mostly developers that I don't like, and I want to tread lightly on that one. But
Right.
it's based on how they treat their workers. So that's the only time I go. It might be good, but I won't.
Yeah, no, I never heard of this game, but I did
Well,
add to my wish list because I like
yeah.
the look of it. But
It's got like a really childish, jolly art style, which is in complete contrast to some of the stories.
yeah,
Just
like when you said it, I was imagining the 3D indie art game style of like the kind of like flat colors and kind of like soft focus. And I was surprised. I'm like, oh no, this is like a big splash of yellow.
Yeah. So yeah, I just like it just seems to make the stories feel a bit more poignant, like they stand out a bit more because you've got all these really fun colours and cute characters in your face, and then something really harrowing's taking place.
Yeah. No, I read a lot of like indie comics and like tonally, like not everything has to be like, I don't know, self-serious in its like visual style to be serious in the subject matter.
Yeah, freaking Celeste.
Yes.
It was like I'm enjoying the hell out of this, and then it's like, oh, this girl's having an existential crisis. I'm like, this layer is very welcome, and I also swear to God that the photographer that she meets on the mountain,
Yes.
he looks like exactly like me, and it's crazy. But yeah, I do like those. All of a sudden, you're like, this cute game turned into something not necessarily menacing, but it makes you think about it.
Meaningful.
It's meaningful, yes, yeah.
Right, or
Something
like
That's one I've always loved the sound of, but I'm not great at those types of games. I almost want to watch a playthrough. Like,
yeah, it can be. I think when I was
I've heard it's difficult.
yeah, because like I think it has by far the best character controller I think I've ever played in a 2D game. Where if you get really frustrated because if there's anything that doesn't happen, it's pure operator error, and it's really like I play fighting games and stuff too, so like I'm used to that. I'm used to messing something up and being frustrated. But that one, when you get like 9 screens over in a single jump and you botch the last jump,
And it's purely your own fault.
yeah. Alt F4. I'll do it later.
yeah, I have, especially because I mean, like fighting games, I think fighting games I am fascinated by because they're like the perfect game example of like really good at illustrating differences in skill levels and like the style of like learning. Because I think like it perfectly illustrates like that gulf where you are in your own head enough that you start becoming worse at something before you get better at it.
100%. And to really follow it into a competitive level, which not like I don't mean to make it a dirty word like League of Legends and stuff, but it's just the fact of it is that you want to play to be on that level.
Yeah.
And that comes with losing a lot. And I have like 900 hours in I love Guilty Gear. I can't even tell you how many coins I put into the arcade machine, but I will lose for 900 hours straight. I don't care. I know that I'm learning. And
right.
I recognize things and then I pick it up and keep moving. So like when you see old games like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and only the same 9 people play it, you only want to watch those 9 people play it. That is fascinating game design.
Yeah, well, because those 9 people are just like very good at that very particular style of game.
It's like seeing Mount Olympus, yeah. and
Yeah.
seeing the gods doing what they're doing. It's really just fascinating how your
Also, like,
hand-eye coordination and stuff is just on another level.
and that game in particular is like the most like Mugen ass fighting game that I know. It's so like so there's like all the characters like so weirdly. I mean, it makes sense why there's so few characters everybody plays because it feels like they didn't care about like balance.
Balance is an afterthought,
Yeah.
and I think if we bring that design forward today, it's difficult to address it in a way that you're not nerfing is the wrong answer.
Right.
I think just bring everything else up to that point, so everything is wacky for its own reasons, and then it
Right.
gains its own personality, and then people will flock to it because like, oh, did you see this? This is stupid, right? And you grin, and then your buddy's like, yeah, I got a way to beat that. You know what I mean?
Right. But I
Get
think
that healthy interaction.
But also just letting people experience the bits of the game they want. Like going back to sort of MMOs, I didn't like feeling pressured to play a certain class or spec or Covenant to sort of
Covenant, shots fired.
yeah. But just to sort of appease the guild or the people I was doing content with. Like, certain classes shouldn't be unviable.
Right. Everything should have utility to bring to the table to have some worth in any makeup. I agree. And then player skill will help elevate that. That's my genuine hope for everything.
yeah.
Looking at you, Final Fantasy.
What are you looking at in particular? Anything?
Summoner's trash, and I've been playing it since day one. It's gotten easier, but that doesn't mean better.
Okay, good. I'll save that one for last then, because I need to have my damage meters. There was a time when I was playing WoW, I was like, wow, I'm really doing good at my damage meters. I'm very good at hitting all 4 of the rogue's buttons.
Yeah. There's even fewer on Summoner. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's why as we wait into MMO talk, I really enjoy Samurai because there's like a million buttons.
Yeah, you'll be. Yeah.
It's like you're constantly going down like 2 different trees, and then there's all these. You got like 3 bars to maintain and perfectly spend, and
Yeah, it has a nuance to it, and I think
yeah.
Designers at some point start to lose track of how intelligent the player base will become with enough time to hone in on those skill sets.
Yeah.
I think dumbing it down in any game, in any definition of dumbing it down, is the wrong way to go. Just, proportionately through playtesting or through maybe just a developer themselves playing their own game, figure out how to put that jigsaw puzzle together in a way that the map will now unconsciously make sense and give the player free reign to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
I think those games tend to thrive, and we see them when, you go back to them 5, 10, 15 years from now, you still play it because you still feel that abundance of freedom within the systems before you.
Yeah, I think that's why, like, when you recommend something to watch, why you so breathlessly said Hannibal, as opposed to like any number of crime dramas that were airing at the same time, is because when you when you commit to like a singular vision.
Is there a reason so many Unreal games seem to like?
Yes. Hello, I'm back.
Give my CPU a beating.
It seems mostly that you can get away with a game being pretty with fewer steps in Unreal, but it's harder to optimize, like Call of Duty Black Ops, or not Black Ops, Cold War.
Yeah.
I believe that's on the Unreal Engine.
I have no idea.
But basically, you don't have to like crush your texture files for to mitigate space usage or even taxing the machine, whereas Unity is kind of, I don't want to say Fisher Price, but it's bare bones like that. Like a Legos, you can do whatever you want with it. So it all depends on what kind of workflow they're preparing to do, because if you try to make something really pretty in Unity, it'll start to feel heavy. And I think the best example of that would be Layers of Fear. Great game. They really pushed Unity to its limit, but you can also just feel that this is a Unity game. I'm going to walk to the door, I'm going to hit the trigger, and then something's going to happen. Whereas Unreal tends to hide it a little bit better.
Yeah,
So,
it's definitely got different feels to them. You can kind of tell which
yeah,
engine is used.
yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
The lighting always seems quite recognizable in Unreal games.
Yeah, dude, their soft lighting is so cool. Volumetric stuff is like the epitome of their ability to bake scenes really fast. Unity, I had to leave. Even my little demo, I had to leave it overnight with a pretty decent computer. So it just seems like it's catering to the strengths of the team right out of the gate before they even get into the engine. Yeah, and I have a soft spot for it. Unreal Tournament 2004 was one of my favorite games of all time.
I still dip into that every now and again.
Yeah, it's hard to get away
It's
from
like
it.
Facing Worlds map, sniper at top.
Yeah, that's the hypeness.
I've got fond memories of like 5-way LAN networks playing with my dad and siblings.
Oh, you did full LAN setups. That's awesome. We used to have like 2 TVs. We had it's like an apartment complex, and the other complex we would swing an Ethernet cable from one window to the other, so that we didn't have people looking at each other's screens and stuff. It got pretty serious.
That sounds intensely serious. As someone who has never done land stuff, hello, I'm here again.
Hey,
Well, I'm not gonna fight with my computer forever. I don't know what its issue is. I was gonna whatever. I don't know what I'm gonna try. I have to figure out I either figure out what keeps breaking or just be like, I don't know, do it faster.
I wonder, is it a tower or a laptop?
A tower.
It feels like your CPU's bottlenecking or your RAM is, and I think it's the size of the screen you're sharing. Is this 4K?
Oh, is it? I wonder if maybe I could just like it's really not really an important image that I'm sharing. Maybe I could make it like a lower res image or something,
Yeah,
or spit out.
you could bring the broadcast down to 720 or something.
Yes, good. Do I do that on my OB? Do you know if I do that on OBS end or on the Twitch end?
You should be able to do it in OBS.
Okay. We'll worry about that later. Okay. Hello. Yes. Back finally. We're just gonna get to plugs. We're gonna get to the end of the show. It's great having you here. So, Rachel, what have you got to plug? To tell the people about. Wait, can you not hear me? Oh no. Is Discord crashing? Oh no. No, wait, you can hear me. Good. It's just good. Rachel, hello. Uh-oh. Can I hear Rachel? Is Rachel here? Hey, Anthony.
Here.
Can I not hear her? Am I? Hello?
She's waiting.
Okay, so
I'm still here.
Okay, good. So for some reason I just couldn't hear you, I think, if you were talking.
Strange.
Have you got anything to plug as we end our show? Of course you do.
Just Indie Hive.
Okay.
If anyone wants to like check out some of the game reviews, or some of the developer interviews are really interesting, because I could say that. But we've got an interview with Triple Topping, the people that made Welcome to Elk. Like, that was particularly fun to do. But,
good.
Yeah, just go check out Indie Hive if you like indie games.
And that's just, I assume you got that good SEO. You just search Indie Hive and you'll get what you need.
Yeah, you should might get our Patreon or Twitter or something first. I'm not sure what's.
Yeah, but it'll all get you there.
Yeah,
I can confirm.
it's just...
A few of my friends already went.
Perfect.
And we're a bit rubbish at social media, but if you want to join our Discord, we act a bit more like human beings there. So.
Yeah, perfect. As someone who didn't make a brand account because it seems exhausting, I can empathize with brand accounts and them being hard. Anthony, what have you got to plug?
I'm really just a developer for hire, constantly working on little things to push my portfolio and all that. So,
Perfect.
you know, level designer, and I would say a programmer, but I should say a novice programmer. But
I put it on your profile on the
it's
stream.
yeah. So it's mostly, you know, I'm on Twitter. I think it's like at @GoldsmithIV or something. I don't know, something like that. Twitter,
Yeah.
it's there.
And
And
people should check out your game.
Yes.
oh yeah, I also have a demo.
There you go with this one.
If you can find the 16th box, go for it.
I did. I beat you. A lot of times I will make sure I try to beat every game, but I don't.
Because my plan that I pulled away from because it was just too mean was I was going to, when you pick up the 15th or 16th box, depending on which room you're in, it was going to change the layout of the call center. Because I'm a jerk.
That would have been a jerk move. And so that would be like, so for instance, if you were going to buy, I am your host, Andrew, and I got to always plug as I plug everything. Buy Indiepocalypse. Perhaps buy Indiepocalypse number 6 in particular. I hear it's a good one. I hear there are good games in there. I hear there's one game where you're in a call center and you're trying to pick up boxes. It's very good.
Yeah.
Don't know who made that, but it sounds like a good game.
Some guy did it.
Some guy. Indiepocalypse.com. Submit your games at indiepocalypse.com/submit. Sign up to the Patreon, indiepocalypse.com/Patreon. You get $5. You get the recorded version of this episode on Monday. Otherwise, you got to wait like a month because I didn't want to go through the process of editing them. What little editing I even do. I don't have my hover, so I don't remember all my indiepocalypse.com/zine if you have stuff to put in the zine, or indiepocalypse.com/newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter. You get a copy of the free version of the zines without the zines in them, or without the comics and reviews and other stuff in there. Basically, just get the little game pages in there. But and you get an email like once a month where I say, hey, the new issue's out. I used to also mention the radio show, but then I'm like, that's too many emails to send people. I hate getting emails. Maybe other people. Okay. Hello?
Hello.
Okay, this is it. I'm done. We're leaving. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you very much.
I don't know what's going on with this computer.
It's
I
fine.
have to look into this. Thank you for being here. I'm transitioning to the thing. Hopefully, OBS will survive the outro song. Thank you. Goodbye. Oh, wait. Subscribe. If you have Twitch Prime, subscribe to, I'm an affiliate now. I can take your Bezos money and I won't spend it back on Amazon. And whatever. Goodbye again.
Bye.
Bye.